If you have come through a breakup from some sort of toxic relationship, whether it was a romantic relationship or with family and friends, stick around for today's episode of Lunchtime Lessons, because we're going to talk about what to do next. If you are new here, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome. We are getting into a mini series this week talking about a few different things that we need to do to begin the healing journey after we've come through a toxic relationship. Again, that could be with family or friends, or it could be a romantic relationship. One of the biggest things that we need to think about is reflection. We have to take time after some sort of breakup in a relationship to reflect and recognize that while we're still hurting, and while we may recognize that we have been wronged in many ways by the other party, there's always a part that we play. And it may not necessarily be that we did something wrong, but there could be things about ourselves that we need to reflect on and change so that we don't make the same mistakes. We don't pick the same wrong person to be in relationship with as we go in the future. So for the remainder of this week during our lunchtime lessons, I want to get into a little mini series about things about our personality, about ourselves that we need to take a look at and consider that may have led to problems in the relationship that you are coming out of and need to heal from. That is what we're about here on this channel. We are looking to heal and become whole and be the best versions of ourselves, get to know ourselves better. What can we learn from the pain? The pain should have a purpose. We don't want the pain to just make us a victim, but we want to come out of it having learned something that's going to make us a better version of ourselves. So today, let's talk about the disease to please. A lot of people have heard of that phrase, but being a people pleaser is something that you need to take a look at yourself and see if that's you. See if the shoe fits, because being a people pleaser can cause you to get into really bad situations and toxic relationships. Usually the number one criteria to look at is boundaries. Take a good look at your life. Do you have boundaries? I thought I had boundaries, but when I really went back and did the work to be real with myself and to think about how I allowed people to treat me, I came to the conclusion that my boundaries weren't as strong as I thought they were. You have to realize that you are going to teach people how to treat you. People are not going to treat you the right way just because it's the right thing to do. I mean, if that was the case, it would be a wonderful world, and I wish that it was that way. But unfortunately, there are many people in this world that do not have your best interest at heart and aren't going to just do right by you just because it's the right thing to do. So you have to have boundaries in place to teach them what you will and what you won't accept. And you have to be consistent with those boundaries. You can't, enforce it one time and not the next, or you can't threaten, oh, if you do this again, then I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and it's always a threat, but you never make good on it. Because, of course, they're going to know after a while that you're bluffing, that you're not going to make good on it. And when you don't have boundaries, really, as you do the work to heal and dig deeper into what went wrong and why you allowed this person to treat you a certain way, because even though that is a tough pill to swallow, in many cases you allowed certain behaviors to continue. You did not put a stop to them. And so we do have to own that. You know what I mean? We have to make sure that we were not allowing people to make us a doormat, and that you weren't accepting things and red flags that you should have put a stop to. So we have ownership in what we allowed and how we allowed people to treat us. And so that may mean that you need to rethink your boundaries, what you will tolerate, what's acceptable, and if those boundaries are crossed, how you are going to respond. And then going forward, you need to make sure that when you are in relationship with people that you let your boundaries be known. This is what I will deal with. If such and such happens, this is how I'm going to need to respond. And then hold yourself accountable, because this really is a form of self-love. And even those of us who don't think that we suffer from self-esteem or a lack of self-love or a lack of self-worth, this is an angle of all three of those that often gets missed. When you allow people to mistreat you, when you do not have strong boundaries, you're not loving yourself. You're not putting yourself and your well-being and what you need and your value at the top. And you have to do that. You have to realize that that has to come from within. Because if you're expecting for that value and self-worth to come from without, from external sources, from people affirming you, from people praising you, from people lifting you, you will be disappointed. You will be disappointed because people are going to let you down. That is a toxic view, and that is a toxic way to value and love yourself. That has to come from within. You have to know, hey, I am worth more than somebody treating me in this way. I am worth more. I deserve better. I don't treat people that way, and I'm not going to accept it in return. So really look at yourself and see if you have the boundaries in place that you need to make sure that you're going to have peace and you're with how you're being treated. And you're going to feel it'll automatically come that when you have those boundaries and you're being treated the way you want to be treated, then you will feel that sense of worth. You will feel that sense of love. It is an indirect way of showing yourself love and value that you have to get from within. So number one, when you're looking at yourself, take a look at your boundaries, because when you don't have boundaries and you are always trying to make somebody else like you, meaning accept you, and you fall into that point in time where you're just trying to please them. I just want to make them happy. I just want them to like me. I just, want them to think that I'm a good person, or whatever it is, fill in the blank that you want this person to think and feel about you. That is a very slippery slope, because when you get to that place, you are going to exhaust yourself trying to make this person happy, or make this person like you, or make this person feel a certain way about you, or think a certain thing about you. It's exhausting. It is actually placing the value that they put on you and their opinion on you above that of which God tells you is your value and the opinion that God has of you. And once you start trying to please people because you want them to have a certain view of you and you want them to think a certain way about you, that becomes idolatry. It really does. You are valuing man's opinion, man meaning men and women, more than what God tells you. God tells you you are fearfully and wonderfully made. God tells you that He's made you in His image. There are so many things that God already tells you, God, and what God believes about you and how God sees you. And then when you just say, "Oh, okay, well, I can't," that's not important. What's important to me is the tangible thing, feeling, words of affirmation that I can get from people. When we lose sight of how our Heavenly Father sees us and we start talking about we want people to think and feel a certain way about us, give us accolades, pump us up, get our ego up, and that is the way we're going to feel better about ourselves, then we have lost focus and we have lost sight of the truth. And now we've fallen into idolatry by putting people, men and women, above God and what he says about us, which is truth. Because look, what other people can think and say about you and feel towards you, that can change like the wind. That's not pure truth always. But God is going to give you the truth when God tells you that you are created in his image, you are his son or your daughter, you are a son or daughter of his, which makes you a brother or a sister of Christ. I mean, that's the truth. And all this other stuff can get real clouded with what other people think about you. So that is what I wanted us to think about today. Some of us really need to tighten up our boundaries. Some of us really need to look and say, am I a people pleaser? Do I have the disease to please? It's not going to take you where you think. You think it's going to make this person love you, make this person like you, make these people think that you are smart or that you are whatever it is, fill in the blank. It doesn't work that way. Because even if you can get them to temporarily think or feel that, in the process, you don't realize that you have now given your power to them. Because now how you feel about yourself is coming from, their feelings, which can ebb and flow and change like the wind. So you really want to make sure that you are getting your value from within, from God, and that will help you keep your peace and not fall prey to the whims of people. So I just wanted to drop that off for you guys today. That is the first aspect of healing that I'd like us to really think about. Get it in your mind, get it in your spirit. If you have been in a toxic relationship, if you've been in more than one toxic relationship, really, really look at yourself, be honest with yourself, and ask yourself, do I have the disease to please? All right. That is what we're going to, what I'm going to leave you with for today. Tomorrow, we are going to be talking about, let me see, what am I talking about? Being peacemakers, because these things can get a little tricky. And I will add this before I let you guys go. If you came up in the church or if you are a Christian, some of these patterns are easy to fall into because of the things that we're taught in church. Not that those things are wrong. What I mean by that is this. Say, for example, we are taught to put others before ourselves. The last shall be first, the first shall be last. We're taught to, consider other people's needs before ourselves. And all of those things are true and are good in the right context. And a lot of times what we weren't taught in church is that those things do have to be in a context. It's not just a blanket, always put other people's needs before yourself. Because if those people do not reciprocate and take advantage of you, then that is a person that you do not need to be in relationship with and that you do not need to be considering first. So you see how it can get a little tricky because some of us have been ingrained with those teachings, but we weren't taught that there's a time and place and a context for those teachings to be implemented. So it gets a little tricky, and that really is going to be the case too with being a peacemaker. Being the person that always tries to make sure everybody's good. I'm trying to keep the peace, make sure everybody's getting along, and you're inserting yourself in all these situations trying to make sure everybody's good. That is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Being a peacemaker, sometimes, just like being a people pleaser, it's not going to work out the way you think. All right, y'all. So I hope that if you are on the path to healing. And if you need prayer, that you'll go ahead and drop it in the comments. I'd love to pray for you. If you'd like to drop me an email about your circumstance because you don't want to put it in the comments, but you would like prayer, my email's in the description box, and I would be happy to pray for you, because we have to hold each other up. Coming through tough relationships, on the other side, it can be a bit of a journey, and it can be hard, but it is doable. You will smile again. You will get to the point where you're not crying anymore. And there'll be one day when you go through the day and you realize, you know what, my heart didn't hurt today. And those things are possible and doable, but you can use some help along the way. And that's what this channel is here for. So again, have a wonderful day. I love you guys. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please let me know if there's anything that I can do, talk about, that will help you on your healing journey. Until next time, take care. Bye, y'all.